every nation, and in this case, every continent has its own way of being. And we Africans, because of our history of colonialism, many times we tend to absorb and imitate systems which have been developed on the basis of other people's history and culture, in detriment of our own history and our own cultures. We believe it's extremely important to reclaim that identity because it will give us the self-confidence in whatever are the options we make for our own development. Yes, we will inspire ourselves and we will learn from other cultures, but we need to be standing on the basis of our own being. We believe also this is important because the world is now much more connected because of the technology, and particularly for our young people, to offer them a platform in which they can interrogate, they can research, they can find out who we are. It is extremely important so that they don't become only global citizens without being genuinely African citizens first. It is not to ignore or to underestimate the contribution of the world, but it is precisely for us to be able to also identify what is it which we as African contribute to the world. It's not only the world to us, but us to the world. And I'm not talking about material resources, but I'm talking about that culture, our relationships among ourselves, within our communities, with our neighbors, with our, leaderships. It's how we relate to nature and what are the philosophies which make the way we are as Africans. So it's the software of being African I'm talking about. And that software, many times it's not, systematically put in a place we can identify it clearly. So minds would like to be, as I said, very bold and to bring together bodies of knowledge which we can refer to as exactly defining how unique, how distinctive, and what has been a long history, the contributions of Africans to the development of the human race today. It was a very good start to systematically bring together people who are interested in really knowing much more in depth what we mean by Africanness, one, but those also who can contribute to help us to unpack, as it happened this afternoon, to unpack what we mean and how we can get there. I think this webinar has given us an agenda, which is much broader than what we could have thought before. To explore the issue of languages, we definitely will need to have a webinar where we are just going to talk of languages, and even to show how languages on the continent cover, the space which we call Africa, the space which is our Africa, but also connecting with the diaspora. Because go to England or go to Ghanaians or Kenyans, yes, they do speak in their own language. They continue, really, they carry Africa with them where they are, although they also absorb the cultures of the countries where they live. But what I want to say is we will need to paint our continent and see it graphically. If we were to take the line which Professor Pryor is suggesting, what really we would have to adopt as languages which could bring together, all Africans, and in specific groups, but in which we could then much easier write about them and take them into the 21st century. It's an exercise which is worth doing. And I think also we could discuss the issues of the regional integration in the context of, the African Trade Agreement. But again, the African Trade Agreement is an economic integration. But here, as civil society organizations, we have the responsibility of bringing what I called at the beginning, the soft side of integration. And how, as civil society organizations, we can and we must play a role in integrating our continent and helping to build that grounding space, which is our cultures, our values, our systems. How do we introduce them and to interact and even to be adopted then as public policies? We have experiences in the past where initiatives of civil society organizations ended up influencing policy, and the policy was adopted. All of you will be brought then to help us then to reshape this agenda and in a sequence which makes sense than to become a programmatic way of approaching this very intriguing but very stimulating issue of what do we mean by Africanness.